Hello and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program in the series that we're calling Escaping Kerbin, but the mini-series that we're calling Minmus Missions Mishaps. That's a mouthful. But yeah, in the last episode, we went and sent a new lander, a new design of lander, science craft, to the orbit of Minmus. And in today's episode, we're just going to pick up right where we left off and go ahead and bring that craft down to the surface. So we can do some science. Yeah, without further ado, let's go check on our Kerbals and see where they're at. Alright, so here we are outside of Minmus. And on the dark side of the planet, we're going to go ahead and lower our periapsis to just over the mountains. Just enough so that we don't hit anything. It's a small burn, not too taxing on our system. While we're in the low space right now, we're going to go ahead and do all of our experiments and EVA our scientists to reset them. For some reason, the lights on my actual craft, I have some spotlights there that are supposed to shine a light on our Kerbal, but I don't think they're working. Although our Kerbal does have a light, but that might just be from the sun. Yeah, you see how the bulb isn't on? Yeah, I think that's a glitch because the lights on my craft are definitely activated. So it would have been nicer to face the science experiments, to be able to turn my whole body so I'm facing them instead of just grabbing them from the top of my head, but can't really do much with that. I'm pretty janky with the EVA controls in third-person mode. First-person mode, I can do anything I want. I can fly with the best of them, but this one's a little tricky. Alright, so then we take all of our experiments and store it in the science experiment storage bay. Whatever the appropriate name for that is called. Cannot remember at the moment. And we're back aboard. So now we're just going to time warp to our maneuver and go ahead and execute that. And a nice little shot of Kerbin as we go by. So there we go. We just did our burn. You might have missed it. Blinking if you'll miss it kind of moment, because it was only 9 meters per second, but it was enough to lower our periapsis. And now that we have a lower periapsis, we're going to go ahead and plot in our landing burn. This isn't going to touch us down to the surface, but this will get us on a trajectory to the correct place that we want to go. We're trying to aim for a very specific location on this mission. Go, just 9,000 meters above the surface, coming in nice and tight. 7,000. We get the warning for 3 minutes to our maneuver, and we go ahead and check our life support. We have more than 2 years worth, so I'm not worried. Even if we end up turning this craft on its side and have to send a rescue mission up to get all our Kerbals back, I believe that we have enough time to do that. We're not going to have to send out a rocket immediately to make sure that they don't die of starvation, dehydration, or oxygen deprivation. Attack life support is an interesting mod. It just adds a whole new level of challenge to everything. In stock Kerbal, if I mess up the craft and then just break it so we can't come back home, well, then it's just a moon colony. You know, we can take care of that whenever we want to, or never. We can just leave our Kerbals on the Minmus and just have them be a permanent base here. But when you play with attack life support, everything becomes a concern. Every mishap in your mission comes with it a lot more challenges. So here we are, we're approaching the surface. I'm a little bit farther away from that edge. I was trying to hopefully get to the edge of the hill and just be on the flats, but right next to the hill so I can just kind of walk there. But unfortunately we plotted our burn too soon, and by this point I can't really take myself out of my trajectory. All I can do is try to slow myself down as much as possible. So I went ahead and used MacJeb's landing computer, and I burnt right at the moment the suicide burn happened, but my engines did not start immediately. So I actually burned late, and if you know what that means, thankfully our engines didn't explode, or our landing gears. Honestly, I don't know how we managed that, but so we're just flipping around, and funnily enough, we're actually moving closer to the spot where I wanted to go. But I just want to take control of this right now and just kind of bring it back safely. I'm falling fairly slowly, killing my horizontal velocity, trying to chase my retrograde marker up to the top. Not the most efficient landing, but a landing that I can guarantee. So just take a look at my contracts real fast. I don't have too many that's going to be satisfied by this mission. And 150 meters. And then 100 meters. Falling at 14 meters per second, which is a little fast, but we go ahead and do our suicide burn. Pump the engine a little bit. And I bounce up one more time and desperately try to take control. And we're coming right back down now. And that is a soft landing. That was very nice. Our crew is alive, our landing gear and engines are intact, our science is all there. So let's go ahead and do that. But the eagle eye among you might notice that we no longer have the Delta V to go home. in our misfortunes of landing, actually, honestly, the problem came a lot earlier, but I don't think we would have had enough Delta V no matter what we did. But the way that it stands right now, this craft isn't getting home. So having 2 years worth of life support is a very, very beneficial thing right now. But they're not thinking about that. They're just excited to have made it, to be on this minty green ball. And who do we got here? Who's our pilot? Bilberry? Yeah, it's Bilberry. So yeah, Bilberry comes down softly, expecting to sink right through the minty green ice cream. But when he reaches solid ground, he's surprised. He wants to take a bite of it, but can't take his helmet off, of course. So instead, he just plants a flag for the glory of Kerbin. And we have officially made it. Look how happy he is. So we're going to go ahead and name this for the future lunar base. A little bit ironic that we don't have enough fuel and we're calling it a Minmus base, but this is where we're going to start setting up things for the next step in our agency's career, and that is to get a science lab of some sort on the surface of Minmus and have it process all the science for us and get much more science per point. So that's the overall goal for this place. That's why I wanted to get it as close as possible to the edges of the flats, so that way we had an easier time to just move to each different biome from where we're at. Yeah, plan is we're going to send a laboratory up here, probably send a rover. We're going to place a little ground station base from the the Breaking Ground DLC. So we're going to have some surface experiments working for that. So Tam and Kerbal goes ahead and grabs all the experiments. And she is a level 2 scientist, I believe. So she's has some experience doing this. She knows what she's doing. Alright, and then after we grab everything, we're gonna go ahead and store it. Can't seem to get this camera though. The science from that didn't work. So I went ahead and stored all our science. So I switched back to the craft for a second, so I can run the experiments again to see if I can either duplicate them and save them in the crew capsule, or if it would finally activate the two that didn't go, the camera and the magnetometer. But I think maybe the magnetometer can't be used on the surface of a planet. Is that correct? That might be like one of the gravitrons that doesn't work in space. I'm not sure on that. If anybody knows, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. But yeah. Anyway, so we got all of our experiments, and now we are gonna grab the Science Junior. Gotta love the low gravity on Minmus. Just the ability to RCS your way anywhere you want. So grab that, reset that. And we're off. And we're in. There we go. Safe, easy. Oh, now my landing lights decide they want to work. See the lights at the bottom of the craft? So just once again double checking on our life support. Very happy with how it's at. Because around this time I noticed that I didn't have the Delta V, so we are going to have to come up with something else to figure out how to get these Kerbals and their science home. So let's just go ahead and turn off the engine so there's no accidental liftoff, and then head back to the Science Center, or the KSC. Alright, so we're now once again back in the VAB, and now we are going to send, not necessarily a rescue mission, but a refueling mission. We're going to send a pilot up there to take extra fuel fill up that lander, and then both the lander and the refueler will take off and head back home. That's the goal anyways. So the important part is to make sure that we have not only enough fuel for ourselves to get back home, but we have to fill the tanks of the other craft. So this is going to be quite a hefty little thing. And also we need to figure out the correct way of being able to fill those tanks. So what we have here is the robotic arms from the Breaking Ground DLC. Go ahead and make a stiff arm out there and set it up so it can tuck neatly inside so the aerodynamic forces don't rip it apart. And we go ahead and put a little claw on the end, and so theoretically we should be able to land near the craft, extend this claw, hook it up to it, and then transfer fuel from there. So go ahead and name it the Refueler 1, just so there's no confusion. Put a little reaction wheel underneath the heat shield, so that way, even when it's in its own capsule form, we have control. Reaction wheels, like, those are the things that I end up putting on. I try to put on everything because it makes us. It's a simple task, but it makes a huge difference in control. Like when you don't always need it, but when you don't have it, oof. So I decided to just throw on some extra fuel, little baguettes. Why not, you know? If we can lift it, then might as well lift it and take it with us. So here we are working on the transfer stage. I'm sure you probably recognize this from our previous vehicles. This is kind of, I don't have names for any of my lifting stages. I especially don't save them as sub-assemblies. I mean, I probably should. It's probably smart. And then I could, know exactly how much weight each assembly could build or could carry up to space, but don't do that. Maybe I should start doing that. Alright, so now I'm working on trying to figure out side boosters. So at first I went solid rocket boosters, but then I changed to liquid fuel so I could use the fuel ducts and try to maximize our usage. And then I don't have enough Delta V, so I go ahead and throw on more boosters, because that is always the solution. Except when it's not. Except when the solution is not more boosters, but bigger boosters, more powerful boosters. So I go ahead and get rid of that, place my decoupler up top, and then once again I start looking at solid rocket, something just to give a little bit more oomph, even if it's less efficient for fuel. And then I go ahead and stick parachutes on all the lower stages, because maybe we can get some money back, because these things are starting to get expensive. I had, at the beginning of this mission, in the last episode, I had 1,500,000 funds. And by the time this is all done, well, you'll see just how much this mini-series cost me. But anyways, I go ahead and forgot about putting parachutes on those side boosters and just decided to separate them normally. I went ahead and did a test flight to see that everything worked, and I need some communications on this. I realized there's going to be some points where having a line to the KSD will work. And then I throw some solar panels on there. I don't even bother paying attention to where I throw them, and I just smack them on there, and that's going to come to haunt me later. So there you go. There's our first little foreshadowing of a mishap. So then I go ahead and this is my test flight, and so far in this series, I've been just skipping the test flights. Like, there's no need to see it if it doesn't actually do anything significant. There's no point in seeing it, right? However, in this, I lost the footage. The footage corrupted and was just unusable of the real mission sending this to Minmus. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to show you that the rocket indeed does lift off, make it to low Kerbin orbit. We're having some stuttering in the images there. But yeah, basically I wanted to show you that this rocket did indeed make it there on its own, that we're not cheating our way through or anything. So I figured the best way to do that is just to show you the liftoff and show you that it can do the things that it's supposed to do. So I was really unhappy that we lost that footage. There was actually quite a bit of bumbling around in that footage. You'll see the aftermath of it all soon, because thankfully I recorded in several different settings or sessions, so we didn't lose the whole mission, just basically the liftoff and the transfer. Oh, look at that. BlackRock's volumetric cloud. So perfect. Love it. Absolutely love it. So now we're just lifting up and slightly pointing ourselves. Oh, by the way, we do spend money every time we run a simulation. The longer the simulation goes, the more it costs. So every time you see me skip through one of the simulated flights, just know that cost me. You know, that cost me to be correct, and that's why in the last episode, when we decided not to do the test flight and we just sent it anyways, and we were wrong, and it ended up disastrously. That's because I was being cheap and I didn't want to spend money on that. But that taught me a valuable lesson: is that a little bit of money is worth the cost of not losing a couple $100,000 rocket. And yeah, so we'll probably be doing a few more test flights then. So yeah, so we got up to altitude. We're at 100,000 meters, and now we're just circularizing our burn. And it's going to take a little bit of fuel from the transfer stage, but overall not too bad. Our lower lifter had the delta V necessary for what it needs, and I like making sure that it doesn't have enough delta V to fully circularize, because I like having it come back down to the surface. And now that we have the parachutes on it, hopefully we'll get some money back from it. So just pushing our way through. It doesn't have the highest thrust to weight ratio, but luckily we're high enough that we're not running the risk of falling back into the atmosphere and having an inefficient engine try to push us the rest of the way. But of course it is a slow process, so I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to the actual circularization part. And there we go. We're circularized. So yeah, so with that, you can look at my delta V, you can do the numbers, and you can see that I have plenty to get there and potentially get back. Depends on how much fuel I use in the refueling process. So this is when I go and do that mission, and I get myself all the way to Minmus, and we have some troubles landing. And as you notice, we landed so close, we were so precise to our landing spot that we actually hit the craft, knocked it over, and fell. It was quite hilarious to see it. I'm so bummed out that you didn't get a chance to see it. But here we are. You know, we've got our rescue craft, or refueling craft, rather, set to refuel. So we're gonna just slowly get our arm out there, but then something happens and I don't have full control of the arms. For some reason, certain parts aren't activating, and I don't know why. Never quite figured that out. The hinges work, but the pistons don't extend. Switching over to the other craft, still not connected. And I believe we are now connected. Yep, we're now connected. So I go ahead and I did not quite realize this until once I'm actually looking at the footage right here. That lander was completely empty of fuel, and I did not leave it that way. So we have a hole in our hull that's leaking oxidizer and liquid fuel. And so I'm transferring over this fuel from one craft to the other, and I'm filling it up, and then I decide to double up my production to empty the refueler a little bit faster. Still not noticing because obviously the lander is filling up with fuel. But you'll see that once I stop putting in the fuel, when I stop it right there, yeah, you see those numbers? They're going down, which means that it doesn't matter that I refueled them, because by the time we get up into space, into Minmus orbit, we'll probably be out of fuel. We won't be able to send ourselves back to Kerbin. Instead, we'll just be floating around in space. And then, in order to rescue them, we're going to have to do a rendezvous and all this stuff, all this hassle. So, instead of all that, we're just going to leave these two crafts tilted here. Or at least the lander is going to be on its side. There's nothing that we want to really do with that. So, at some point, I think the hook disengaged. So now our hook is free to push us up, to kind of pop us up into the air. Because as funny as it was to be laying right next to the thing, I do prefer my rockets to be upright. Give it a nice little push. And try to rotate myself upright. Not very well, of course. And just barely managed to catch my landing gear in the right spot, so I didn't flip the other way. So there we go, we got ourselves upright. So we have a lot more to do, especially a lot more rescuing, so we're going to get to that in the next episode, but that's where I'm going to leave today's episode. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward to more of the Minmus mission mishaps. And if you liked it, please consider giving me a like, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.